Hey everybody, welcome back to UR Free TV. It is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. We're back in with the deep news. It is huge. Everything going on that is on the macro scale of taking down Cartel Babylon. So I'll jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. There are further disclaimers in the description below. So there's so much going on. I say thank you to everybody who supports the channel, and we're just going to jump in. A lot going on as I'm here. And I'm actually here with a bit of a, if you look at this is bentonite clay from a tick bite that I got. The second one in 10 days of these tiny black ticks that have found their way onto my body. They're not blood-sucking ticks, they are delivery mechanisms. And so I'm fighting the spirochetes and all the stuff from the ticks. And so prayer is always welcome. As we launch off this video, do appreciate your prayers because they are weaponizing everything in biowarfare. And people always wonder, oh, you're free TV, you say you're attacked this way and that way. Anyways, strange tick bites out of nowhere in a place where I've lived and been for 10 years, suddenly getting 2 bites in 10 days from these creepy, very small black ticks. So we're fighting that. But anywho's what's we have so much going on and it's incredible and it is macro scale. And as we're looking at the death of the Pope, Trump going to Rome on Saturday, okay, for the funeral. And this is huge. It's huge. Okay, people are worried, oh, why would Trump go? This seems very squirrely, very dodgy for his health, for his, well-being, all of it. But I would put in this. I think that Trump going to Rome is really important right now because we're looking at so much of what is the Jesuit control of the world to do with everything from the World Economic Forum, as we're seeing Klaus Schwab now supposedly being internally investigated by the World Economic Forum for money laundering and all kinds of things connected with the IMF, as Scott Bessent is, of course, meeting with the IMF summit in DC this week, which has everything to do with the funding of the World Economic Forum for the last 10 years, hugely through the Biden years, off the charts with no bid contracts, everything to do with the climate cabal, the the SDG goals, all of it. They're dismantling it. And Scott Bessent went up in front of the International Monetary Fund and basically said, we're ending the climate funding, we're ending the SDG goals of the UN, we're ending this out of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, which is completely and 100% funded by the USA. So all our taxpayer dollars, all of our hard, labor that people do in this country, it's amazing that we're still standing after 80 years of being sucked dry, okay, purposely, after Bretton Woods. What was put in place was this huge enterprise where the USA would become the military of the world, protect the world militarily. Nobody in the NATO countries allowed to have any kind of warfare with each other. This was the globalist order that was set and put in place by Bretton Woods. And that was FDR, right? And that was White, I believe, who was the one who orchestrated that deal for the FDR regime, going against Keynes and what happened with the, confronting that massive, incredible German economist that was doing the M bonds and everything out of Germany. That came out of industrialization, right? And Germany was the top industrialists. They were able to just, bam, 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 in 2 generations industry, okay, that came with technology. And we're looking at a new technology front now, and that's what's guiding what's happening next. But, okay, the situation here is that we're looking at a place where the U.S. is now saying, nope, this is like the next level. Bretton Woods. Bretton Woods is over. That was the globalization plan that was orchestrated by the European International, by the City of London, etc., to hobble and use the United States as a cash cow forever. And now Trump is putting an end to it, and Trump has been feared literally by everybody across the world since the 1980s, ever since he became super close to Nixon, okay, in the 80s, and also JFK Jr. Basically, when Trump basically said, I'm against everything. He refused to join secret societies, whether he was at Fordham or Wharton. He was approached by the Jesuits. He was approached by others, and the Jesuits are some key players. And that's why the Pope's death is so imperative here, because the death of the Black Pope, the Jesuit Pope, taking over, basically saying Jesus was an immigrant, you know, I mean, crazy level, disgusting things for these people who are the purveyors of mass child rape trafficking. Okay, the mass industry of organ trafficking, the mass industry of slavery. Okay, what has gone on under Biden has been the escalation of it on steroids, really for Satan. I'll just say that, really for Satan. And so when Scott Bessent comes out and says to the IMF, who is doing their summit in DC this week, saying it's the end of the IMF's, since 2019, the IMF has been aligned with the World Economic Forum and the UN for the creation of all the SDG goals, okay? The sustainability goals of 2030 agenda, Agenda 2020, Agenda 2030. And basically saying we're ending everything with the IMF to do with Agenda 2030, to do with everything that are social programs, to do with social engineering, whether it is the DEI, whether it is the CRT, whether it is the equity of baloney lines. That's over. We're only going to have the IMF be supporting things like energy production in places like Africa. Okay, if the IMF is going to exist, the International Monetary Fund, who all these players are on the World Economic Forum boards, okay, who he's talking to, who Scott Bessent, who is not just an economist, he is an economist scholar. He is a historian of economic history. And he is a brilliant player. So what he's doing here now is saying we're basically nullifying Bretton Woods, okay? And Bretton Woods was the way that during World War II, 1944, we get the situation with FDR. Let's take advantage of the situation after World War II and the total destruction of everybody across Europe, that the U.S. will be in charge of the world's currency. And what Bessent is saying is this is over. We're not going to globalize anymore. We are going bilateral, and you're going to have to deal with it. And the dollar is still dominant because the USA has an incredible singular position in the world, which is that it is protected by literally, it's protected by its position geographically. On with two coasts, we have massive cities of ports. We have thousands of miles between us and other adversaries. We have the coast, the border in the north, Canada, the least, the most open border in the world with a neighboring country, which has not gone so well the last 10 years. We have basically a situation where all the threats to world powers were not against the USA because they don't have the geographical ability to do so. And the USA, of course, had the largest naval power, etc., and was able to maintain this incredible. We will be the police of the world. We will, guard everything, and we will allow now after World War II all of your after tariffing everybody before that, okay, the tariffs, McKinley, etc., the tariffs before the creature from Jekyll Island, before the Bretton Woods, it was tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. Okay, that you have to, if you want to come into the United States, you're going to have to pay some tariffs and to do trade with us. They turned that over, okay, after the creature from Jekyll Island to create the Federal Reserve, which allowed them for the first time ever to not have people invest in what were U.S. bonds, okay, U.S. bonds, which were the Treasury bonds were the way that the U.S. people who had money to say whether they agreed or disagreed with what the government was doing with the economy. They could do it whether they did or did not invest in Treasury bonds. And what happened with the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913 was that it basically allowed a usury system into our country that never existed before. The usury, the economy of sin, to come in and basically say we have this private Federal Reserve Board out of Jekyll Island, out of those J.P. Morgans and the Rothschilds and everybody getting together and saying we're going to create a private lending system that is the Federal Reserve to come in and basically say we'll just lend you all the money you want. You don't have to rely on Americans buying these treasury bonds if they agree or don't agree with the policies you're doing. We'll give you the money anyway, and we'll collect tons of interest. And hence, ever since, it's been the usury system in the United States, and it's obviously the Ponzi scheme has come to an end, and we have Bessent coming to the IMF, to the International Monetary Fund, and saying, "Hey, it's done. We're not doing the DEI, we're not doing the SDGs, we're not doing the UN, we're not doing the World Economic Forum." Who, in 2019, the IMF partnered with the UN and World Economic Forum to basically do all these no-bid contracts for all of the climate change garbage entrepreneurs. And of course, now we have the World Economic Forum saying they're going after Klaus Schwab and his wife, Hildy, and his daughter, and everybody with the World Economic Forum's foundation. There's the Klaus Schwab Foundation. There's the Klaus Schwab Entrepreneurial Foundation. But basically, they're operating as all of these foundations, whether it's the Clinton Global Initiative, whether it is all of them. What they do is they create a foundation that partners and really parallels and mirrors the money that comes through to be able to bounce it back and forth for money, massive money laundering, and obviously hugely pay-for-play scenarios. And what's going on here with this now investigation into Klaus Schwab is we're looking at the World Economic Forum, who Scott Bessent, who is the incredible, he's an incredible scholar, he's an incredible economist, and he is taking up the mantle from the Bretton Woods of 1944, and he is putting it into now 80 years later, what is the reclaiming of America from the globalist setup that happened then. And when we look at this, we look at the World Economic Forum now is just their board of directors is massive. So I might put on my glasses finally and talk about this. The World Economic Forum is made up of all of the biggest banksters in the world, okay, on the board. And for them to announce that they're, now investigating Klaus Schwab, okay, as if they don't know that this whole thing has been run as a money laundering organization for so long. And don't get me started. There's all kinds of stuff to do with Ukraine and the money laundering going on there. But if we let's just look at a few of the World Economic Foundation board members. Okay, it's everybody, the Cartel Babylon banksters. And so we get Al Gore, okay. We get Jordan's Queen Rania on there. We get Christine Lagarde, okay, who is the the European Central Bank director, and so much fraud to do here with all of them. We get Fabiana Georgiano, the CERN director, the director of CERN, the super hadron collider that's creating portals and portals for demons to come through, but also massive interference with our atmosphere to be able to create weapons of mass destruction that have never been seen before. This is huge satellite-based weapons, all of it, with particle beam weaponry out of CERN. Kristalina Georgieva, she is the IMF managing director. This is specifically who Scott Bessent is calling out. She was involved in the Siemens the fraud. She was involved in the fraud with the data out of IMF that gave China that messed up the data to allow that China was fine with all of their climate garbage, with all of their pollution, with all the fact that they just pollute more than any other country in the world, while they continue to be claiming their World Trade Organization still a favored member, a developing country. That's Kristalina Georgieva. Oh, these are all people on the World Economic Forum Foundation or World Economic Forum Board, who's now going to attack Klaus Schwab, who started it, who Kissinger told Klaus Schwab out of Harvard, they both were there, and Kissinger said to Schwab, you will start this World Economic Forum, which is a globalist private public partnership organization to it's a Nazification of globalism, basically to create the where the corporatists can align with the UN in order to control what the world is doing for this new world order globalist situation and this one world government and this one world religion and all of it down the line. Okay, whether it's a Lucius Trust, getting into creating the one world religion, Islam, all of it, and we'll get into the Pope and the Trump's going there on Saturday, and I think it will be really good. Zelensky's trying to meet him there as people like Rubio and J.D. Vance and Trump are all saying, "Hey, you either make a deal. It's looking like it's Russia gets what they have right now, and that's it, or else we're done. We're out." Okay. So huge threats about defunding NATO, defunding any aid to Ukraine. Trump's on it. Huge things going. We have his presser today where he was amazing. Trump does a great job of acting so innocent while he's in these pressers, while there's massive things going on behind the scenes. And one of the biggest things going on behind the scenes is Bessent at the International Monetary Fund, the summit in DC right now. And basically what he had to say is that the IMF has to say no more to the World Economic Forum and SDG goals of the UN. That all those social programs, all of this CRT, equity, all of this baloney is out of the IMF. That the only reason that in the U.S. funds it all, funds the IMF, funds the World Bank, all of it. He says that basically that they're not meeting economic benchmarks. Okay, these countries that all this money is going to, the International Monetary Fund is only supposed to lend to countries that are meeting economic benchmarks that make them part of a civilized world. That has to do with energy. It has to do with um, um, uh, uh, infrastructure. It has to do with um, basically that people have access to clean water, clean food, and that there are some level of civil rights there for the people involved. And he's saying, no, we're ending the communist aspect of this. We're ending the DEI stuff. We're ending all the Marxist crap out of IMF. And this is huge out of Bessent. Okay. And he holds his ground really well, does a great job. And what he basically said is all the failing policies of Agenda 2030, which, as I said before, is what united the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, with the World Economic Forum and the UN for the Agenda 2030 goals of SDG goals to take away the energy, to take away the food, to carbon bad, eat the bugs, all of it is done. And Bessent's coming really hard saying, no, this is over. And the World Bank has to return to its core mission. The World Bank, hugely also in the World Economic Forum or World Economic Forum Foundation or World Economic Forum Board. Let's look at these people again. Okay, we get Mark Benioff. We know him, Salesforce. Super was just climbing the ladder, wanted to be the next Klaus Schwab. And we get, of course, Kristalina, as I mentioned before, Georgieva, the IMF managing director. But Larry Fink of BlackRock, he's also on the World Economic Forum board. So all these people are being taken on right now. It's massive. It's huge. And we have to look somewhat into Siemens. We've got a couple board members on there that are Joe Kaiser and Jim Hageman Snabe, both chairmen on the World Economic Forum board. Okay, as Klaus Schwab, they're saying we're doing an investigation into how the Schwab Foundation, was laundering money, stole tons of money. Well, yeah, well, okay, interesting. But with the Siemens, we get, of course, the deaths that have happened over the last 4 weeks. With the two Siemens deaths, we get the helicopter, okay, over the Hudson a couple of weeks ago that fell into the ocean, fell into the Hudson River. Basically, it dismantled in air and just fell down. It was Escobar and his family, his wife, his children, all dead with the pilot out of that Bell helicopter. After that, the company in New York who rented these helicopters from Bell Helicopter, they had to shut down. They shut down everything, and that's the Siemens guys. And the Siemens guys have been involved. Siemens Bank, Siemens Energy, have been involved in massive corruption for decades. Really hugely hitting the hub in 2008 in the huge steal, which was them being exposed for $1 billion slush fund that they were using to bribe officials in the Congress and in across the world to do with these no bid contracts, right? And this is what we're seeing. We're going to see the end of the no bid contracts. We saw it um, with Secretary of Defense today. Okay, we get Pete Hegseth coming out and saying, we're ending the quotas, we're ending these contracts. We are full bore set on just the Pentagon being entirely focused on, um, war fighting and what's going to happen coming next, because there's huge things coming next. And we're hoping to stop anything huge that's coming on. Trump standing down to Israel, not standing down to, standing down Israel, standing down Netanyahu, no nuclear attack on Iran. We're not going to have these wars that pollute the world and set up World War III. And we get, of course, the IG, Robert Storch. I don't think this got enough attention, but at the end of January, we saw at the Pentagon, we saw that IG Storch was fired, okay, at the end of January. And what he had done at the Pentagon, the IG for the Pentagon, okay, this is the investigator general, the person totally connected with the Pilgrim Society, with the club, okay, with the SES that controls the deep state, and the IGs are huge in this. But he got caught out, and this is the Pentagon IG basically claiming the role of becoming the fiduciary to control the money going to Ukraine. Okay, I mean it's huge. It's huge, but you barely hear about it. He was uh, fired because he had created this fake treaty that he signed as an IG, as an investigator general, out of inspector general, excuse me, out of the Pentagon. He signed a treaty which only presidents can sign with Israel, with the excuse me, not with Israel, but it might as well be, but with Ukraine, with the head of NABU, okay, out of Ukraine, the national something corruption board of Ukraine. He signed a anti-corruption treaty, okay, with them that put him in charge of how the funds that were relief funds in the billions going to Ukraine to be managed by him. And he was the guy who's supposed to look for the waste, the fraud, the corruption, the abuse, okay, going on here through the Pentagon to do with the Ukraine funds. Instead, he signs himself over to be the fiduciary to where the funds go, okay? Total opposite, 180 degrees opposite of his purview and totally criminal. And that was Robert Storch. And this is what we're looking at as we see Bessent going after the IMF. And we see the World Economic Forum saying, oh, we're now going to investigate Klaus Schwab and his family, his wife Hildy, as if they haven't known for the last 20, 30, 40 years since the World Economic Forum has been in practice, that this second organization, the foundation of the World Economic Forum, has been switching out funds, okay, in this pay for play all along, and especially to do with these no bid contracts, everything to do with the UN, USAID, State Department, and we have Rubio now gutting the State Department down to its absolute statutory limits, okay, shutting down all of offices across the world of the State Department of the United States. Okay, this is shutting out the information, shutting out the pay for play, shutting out the ways that that NATO, World Economic Forum, UN, and the IMF and the World Bank have all been doing this business. So we're seeing Rubio, who, squirrely. I mean, I never would have thought Rubio, because he was one of the people with the Guatemala election steal just a couple of years ago, basically wrote one of these strongly worded letters to the Guatemalan government saying, hey, we're not going to support anything to do with trying to investigate this Guatemalan election, which was basically stolen and using USAID money. So it's all an interesting game. It's interesting to see what's going on here with Rubio. Not 100% sure, because that in the past, you and I both didn't love Rubio, but now he is shutting down. Okay, he's shutting down what's going on with the State Department worldwide. And of course, we saw him saying that Zelensky, Rubio was the first to say that Zelensky is not respecting any kind of peace talks. It's not happening. And J.D. Vance then came and said, yes, the peace talks are over because Zelensky is just inciting more violence, more hatred, more war. And then we get, of course, Trump coming out and saying, yes, we don't want any more people dead. We're kind of done. The USA could remove itself from the whole talks to do with Russia and Ukraine. And on this channel, I'll just say, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I say Ukraine was where Russia started as a nation. And I believe that the mass slaughter of what was Cartel Babylon's slaughter on their own people is the epitome of evil and satanic awful. That we see these people, you get this combo of the Jesuits and the Zionists, okay, bent on bringing in this Luciferian world order, using the CIA, using the USAID, using everything of globalism that was set in force after Bretton Woods at the end of World War II, to make the USA the globalist force that would ensure military might and protecting all of the trade venues, the trade avenues, the seaways, whether it's the canals, the seas, etc. You'd have the U.S. protecting all the waters and then allowing, after never doing before, all the world to come and trade into the United States, sell all their wares here tariff-free. Trump is reversing that, okay? Trump is reclaiming America. Trump is taking back America first, tariffs, and saying, hey, it's over. That globalist stint, that 80-year thing, we're fourth turning, we're reclaiming the fourth turning here right now. And it's going to be that, again, the best country in the world that has the best constitution, the best rights for the people, is going to be in charge. And it's a Christian country, and we're going to manage everything else that's going on inside of it. But basically, the best values, okay, that can be put forth are still here and existing in this country, even in spite of the satanic massive takeover. That we are taking it back. We're going to capture and take down. We have just coming out in the last few days, we have the White House putting out National Child Abuse Prevention Month on the whitehouse.gov. I'll link it below, where Trump is saying we pledge to bring every abuser, predator, and evildoer who threatens the health and safety of our children to swift justice. Okay, and this has so much to do with the death of the Pope and to do with McCarrick's successor in DC. It's the reason they're also trying to stop Ed Martin, the great person who should be the DC U.S. attorney. But basically, with the death of the Pope, the Black Pope, the Jesuit Pope, Jesuits run the child trafficking, the MK Ultra, with CIA across Europe ever since World War II. What came out of Japan and Germany with torture and mind control, and sex abuse and child trafficking. And it's a massive industry, and it is the Jesuits, okay? And so while we look at this with what's going on with the death of the Pope, with April being Child Abuse Prevention Month, and with Trump going to the funeral of the Pope, Zelensky is said to do a cameo, try to crash that party. We'll see. I think it's going to be a very intense situation on Saturday. We may not know the full of it, what goes on, but there are multiple people. We know Maloney will be there. We know that there will be huge negotiations going, but it's at the same time, okay, Saturday, you're about 3/4 of the way through the morning or halfway through, whatever, and the morning of the dirtbag Pope, disgusting individual, Jorge Bergoglio, the massive Jesuit operative, to basically try to hobble Christianity worldwide and bring in Chrislam, bring in a one world Abrahamic religion. we're going to see Trump, who refused to be recruited by the Jesuits, go there, okay, whom they fear, and do a massive showing here right before the conclave gets launched, okay, about a week later. So it's going to be a big deal. And if Zelensky shows up, that'll be interesting too. Um, uh, as I said before, let Russia take it. Let Russia take it. So we've got Catholic Charities. We've got the former chief of staff of Michelle Obama, who is now running what used to be the Lutheran Charities. And we get into how all of these people get back to being connected to the Jesuits run the MK Ultra programs, okay? uh, in the training of the children, whether it is now the trans kids getting the MK Ultra, whether it was the MK Ultra specific way back in the times of what Fauci was a part of after Sidney Gottlieb, okay, at the CDC, and all of this coming up, okay. These are the same people. They're the same disgusting predators who have created the international slave trade of children, the international rape trade of children, the international organ harvesting of children, the international um, basically production of goods that come out of children, whether it's adrenochrome, etc. All the stuff we know about. These are satanic people. And so I think Trump going there to Rome at this time with his full, I would say, the crown of God upon him, I think will be monumental. And I think it's a fantastic thing. So let's just hold fast with huge prayers for what Trump's going to do there, because it's going to be monumental. And what we're seeing here with the takedown of the World Economic Forum, Larry Fink on the board there, okay, BlackRock. As I said before, it's everybody. The director of CERN, Siemens, the director of the World Bank of Europe, the director of the IMF. All these people are on the board of the World Economic Forum, and it's being taken down because they can't make the money anymore. It's all shut off. It's all shut off. Bessent is shutting off the IMF money, the International Monetary Fund, the U.S. funds the International Monetary Fund. It would not exist. Same with the World Bank. Okay, it is your taxpayer dollars. We are funding it. And what Bessent is saying is that this is only going to go into energy projects. If we're going to send these to developing countries, China will no longer be considered a developing country, finally, after they're toppling the world with the Belt and Road Initiative and taking over all of the ports and all of the infrastructures. They are gone. They're done, okay, with that status and the WTO. And WTO member director on the World Economic Forum board as well. I'll link it below. What we're looking at is Bessent and the Trump team coming out full bore saying, nope, all that funds to the UN, the who formalized their treaty the other day that the U.S. is not involved with or funding anymore. Taking money out of IMF, the World Bank, all of it. We're looking at what is the taking down of globalism that was created by the City of London, by the sorry, I'm getting the thing. Hold on. Okay, so I had to pause for a second. But so what we're looking at is the takedown of these globalist institutions, okay, that were pressed upon and put upon the United States by Cartel Babylon. And I want to talk about Trump's executive orders today. I think they're really important, looking at the elites, looking at who's in control, all the international organizations involved. But Trump had a White House presser today that was amazing. And he did basically multiple executive orders. The first one was to enforce laws on American universities not accepting foreign gifts basically all the CCP money to places like Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Columbia, and others, basically saying that they're going to enforce these laws that have been on the books but ignored, where these institutions are not able to take money from foreign governments that are antagonistic to the United States. And then also his executive order for accreditation pathways to be reviewed for the same universities based on performance, not on social DEI programs, meritocracy. Very important. Very important. Sorry. Okay, and so we also have the executive order of the workforce development. This one's really exciting, with, of course, America at Work tour going on with the new Secretary of Labor, who's actually doing an incredible job. People were doubting her. Oh, she's a leftist. She's whatever. No, she's actually doing really great work. America at Work, where they're putting in this workforce development executive order, where they're creating 1 million apprenticeships, 1 million apprenticeships to create trained workers for all the new industries that are reshoring to the United States of America. This is fantastic. It's great tradecraft with great pay, basically bringing back that whole opportunity to the to the working class and the middle class of America. And we also get executive order on school discipline policies to be reenacted, so that teachers have the ability to discipline the children that are in their classes to try to end the violence in public schools. All of this being rolling back DEI, all of these critical race theory policies to do with discipline, that you can't discipline people who come from, hardship backgrounds and all this crap, dealing with race and all of it. They're rolling that back. Very exciting stuff. So I might leave it there, only because I keep having this kind of, coughing attack that's going on here. But we're going to be looking at massive changes in people are, we definitely need some arrests. We need Mayorkas should be arrested. Okay. I'll just say this at the end of the video. We're looking at a time where, if they're going to be redoing Bretton Woods, which is what's happening now, where they're creating an entire new economic policy, geopolitical redoing of geopolitics with Trump's incredible leadership, and we're looking at the judiciary being totally just, totally treasonous, basically. I will say it. Treasonous, and with people like Jamie Raskin saying we're going transnational, we're going to relate to all European International and the EU and all these countries that are still doing everything that the Trump administration has put a kibosh on. USAID, the National Endowment for Democracy, everything that was paying all the massive billions of dollars of bills for all these regime changes. And Raskin's just saying, oh, no, we're going to go transnational to defeat Trump. And you come to a point, okay, and because we do need some people arrested from what happened in the Biden treason takeover coup on this country. The Sedition Act of 1807, I think it's time for it. I think it's time to go for it with the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. And, there's a talk about, well, will Trump suspend habeas corpus for the illegal migrants charged with criminal charges that aren't necessarily to do with being here illegally, criminal charges to do with violent crime, etc., to just suspend habeas corpus. Well, when we look at Bretton Woods, that was FDR. I think it was White. I can't remember the guy's first name, who executed that against with Keynes, all of that, to create globalism, with the U.S. just being the naval protection arm to allow global trade to happen. Um, well, FDR was the biggest suspender of habeas corpus. Okay, basically what that means is you don't have a right to trial if you are an enemy of the United States. And it was, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Ulysses S. Grant. And with the fight that's going on to attack Trump constantly by the judiciary, which is what they're doing through the Soros Foundation, used to be USAID, all of it, to create these regime changes using the judiciary, using the media, using the AGs and the district attorneys, all of it, then go above it. Okay, suspend habeas corpus for enemies of the United States. Okay, get it done and get us some arrests, and we need to see a few people really out there. And I think that's really important. Mayorkas is huge. Blinken. We have Guatemala, 190,000 children trafficked out of Guatemala under Kamala Harris, we'll say. Okay, under her regime, okay, with Biden. Blinken going down to Guatemala right before the election steal of 2023 to try to stop the investigation into Save Our Children or Save the Children that was chaired by Jill Biden. Okay, the trafficking of these children, the criminality on these children. This is the number one thing. Okay, that every American should want there to be huge criminal, not only trials, but there should be an emergency orders to stop these people. Okay, like Mayorkas, like the Highest Foundation, the Catholic Charities, the Lutheran thing. These are the people who have executed MK Ultra, mind control, ritual abuse training, the Jesuits, for the last 40 years, that have created the trans movement, that have created the school shootings, that have created what still now appears to be kids in cages on military bases, okay? Creating some kind of army that we don't even understand yet what they're doing. And so we need to empower the Trump administration, and he needs more leverage. And this is not normal times. This is very much second and rev. Okay, and we need Trump to go full bore and know that they have our back. We have their backs. That we are 100%. Let's take down Satan. Let's take down the satanic cabal that relies on the blood and organs and energy of children, okay, to shut down the energy of the rest of humanity, to shut down the energy production of the world while offering themselves up to a satanic god. It's time to put an end to it, and I on this channel am fully supportive of it. And so maybe that's why I got this, black tick bite. But it's I just think we're ready for it, Trump. We're ready for arrests. We know that the deep dives are going. That the attack that Bessent is doing against the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank is really solid. A huge macro economic attack. Okay, to take back the IMF and the World Economic Forum joining with the UN to steal all the money for these SDGs and Agenda 2030 goals to stop all the energy, stop all the food production, and go transhumanist is being stopped. So that's massive, right? And maybe people don't really understand that, but they do understand the arrests of high-profile people like Anthony Blinken or Mayorkas, Alejandro. It's really Alexei Mayorkas. Okay, he's from the same area as all of them. Okay, Ukrainian, Hungarian, Russian, Jewish population that sits at the heads of all these positions of these New World Order folks. So I might leave it there. I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there. So prayers are paramount. Let's just keep praying let's just keep, really the prayer wave is huge. Swords out, okay? The word is so important. So the prayers are so paramount. So keep that going, keep praying, and let's see what comes next, because every day is miraculous. The death of the Black Pope, the installation of what's going to be coming in the Vatican responsible for the Jesuit programming of the satanic ritual abuse across the world and the mass trafficking, okay, that has been organized with the migration invasions of Islam and in expanding the caliphate. And Jesus is a migrant, being taken down. It's very thrilling. It's incredible. We're rushing the gates of hell. We're rushing towards the demons to get them expelled, and we will win. We will win. Okay, so let's pray for Trump. Let's pray for his family. Let's pray for the people in charge here, that we can aid them. We can aid them, and let's do everything we can. This is not a floating along in the raft time. This is like jumping out of the raft, swimming, pushing the raft, pushing the raft with all your power. It's putting all effort ahead as we go towards Cartel Babylon to defeat the economy of sin and defeat these Satanists. We're at the best time ever to do it right now. So thanks so much for watching. If you appreciated the video, there's ways to support the video below. Keep the channel going. Help me keep, doing all these great videos. And there's so much more besides, but I will mention my great sponsor, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. If you're worried about what's getting into your mitochondria, like me with this tick bite, I am jamming down C60 Evo right now to take the garbage out of my cells, get it out of my mitochondria, whatever's in there. c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YFTV for 10% off, or anybody who contributes to the channel gets 15% off, and with a different code and email sent to you, link. And so thank you, because they are, C60 Evo is like the top of the line of the best producers in the world, free from China, that create the most incredible carbon 60, ESS 60 molecule that is used in all the studies that won the Nobel Prizes, etc., to fight radiation, to clean up your mitochondria, using your melatonin and your glutathione to take the garbage out of your cells. And so I'm guzzling it right now with this, bioweapon, whatever this is, with these tick bites. But we are free, and we'll keep going. And I will see you either tomorrow or Friday, but I will see you very soon next time. You are free.